definition of a square necessitates the existence of squares, the definition of God necessitates the existence of God. This is called the ontological argument, and every philosopher has a moment in which he thinks this argument is logically sound. But wait, no, that's not right. Or is it? Where am I? Descartes also pioneered the concept of Cartesian dualism, which puts forward that the universe is composed of two distinct categories of stuff, the regular matter that you see every day, and the non-material substance of the mind and spirit. He believed that supernatural concepts such as souls were subject to scientific and logical inquiry just like everything else, and in fact believed to have located the human soul inside the pineal gland of the brain. Whether or not you believe in gods and ghosties, the fact remains that just about everything you learned in school traces back to René Descartes in some way, which is somewhat ironic considering Descartes' central philosophy is that everything you learned in school is wrong. Or is it? You don't know. By the way, have fun trying to sleep tonight.
Yeah, so I'm not going to listen to a closing music for a full minute. There you go. There's the Descartes. Andrew would like to add that Dark City was better. And I don't know what that is. I guess that was one of the works by him. Let me pull it up real quick. Because if he's recommending it, it must be good. As you guys know, Andrew may be God. We're not sure yet. He denies it. Well, he hasn't actually denied it yet. So, and if God has to tell the truth and he hasn't denied it, well... Yeah, and you can get kind of crazy. Dark City, that was a movie? Alright, that's why I hadn't heard of it, because I'm not much on... I will be checking that out. Dark City, who's in it? Rufus Sewell. Man, I've seen some good movies. Oh, yeah, he's a good actor. He's got the crazy snake eyes. I had a guy, dorm chief in basic training, looked just like him. Very creepy looking. Looks like a snake, really. Literally, that's what his face looks like. And when your name's Rufus. Oh, Kiefer Sutherland in there too. William Hurt, Richard O'Brien, Jennifer Connelly. I will be watching that. Dark City. Yes, I will. Please don't tell me how it goes, Andrew. I hate spoilers. I've been watching some movies lately. I have seen a couple that are really good, and I wish I could remember their titles. If I think of them, I'll share them with you, in case you might have missed them. Because I'm very critical of movies. As soon as they start deviating from... Here's the problem with fiction. I'm going to just slip off topic here for a second. Fiction has to be believable. Reality doesn't. Isn't that fucked up? It is a hard part of fiction, and I'm wrestling with it right now as I write this William Wallace book on here's what I can inject into the story because we don't have details to prove whether it's right or wrong. I'm trying to put in a most likely scenario along with some drama. That's what you do when you write fiction novels. So I've got a timeline. I've got a bunch of facts. I'm not going to deviate from the facts, but there's a bunch of holes in the middle. That's where I get to play. And the problem with fiction is if I had all the facts and I put them in this book and you just didn't know them and I wrote the book, the critics would tear that fucking book apart and say, this wouldn't be possible. It's not believable. And then if I were to reveal the facts and say, see, this is what happened, they'd be, oh, okay, I see. That's cool. So your fiction has to be believable. That's a shame. That's a shame that we can't play more. But, you know, otherwise you're going to get major critiques. Maybe some people can appreciate it, but it probably is a lot like, who is that actor that I like? I don't remember people's names, sorry. John Cusack. Yeah, I'm a cult guy. I like him. I think like him. At least the characters he plays in the interviews he does. Yeah, I'm just much more handsome. I mean, you know. Yeah, because pride is a novelty, and I'm not into that, but... Anyway, let's go. We're going to do another, and I got a guide up here to popular philosophers. We're going to talk a little bit about, just a teeny bit, about Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. We may touch on, let's see, we have Augustine, Aquinas, Machiavelli. By the way, the Machiavellian thinking, which was started with the book The Prince, which was meant to be a book for a king on how to run his kingdom and how ruthless to be, happened to be, admittedly, Bill Clinton's favorite book. So you can take that however you want. Hobbes, Locke, we talked about Rousseau, Kant. Kant was a negative motherfucker. Marx, Nietzsche, Foucault, which means fuck off, Rawls, Nozick, Levinas, Lyotard, from which leotards were derived. I'm just guessing, and Derrida, but there's a couple of other ones too. And I think since we just talked about the Nietzsche, let's get into some Nietzsche-isms.
How to pronounce his name. The first bit should sound like ni, the second like cha. Nietzsche. Then we need to get past some of his extraordinary and provocative statements. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. God is dead, and we have killed him. And his large moustache. But when we do, we'll discover a thinker who's intermittently enchanting, wise, and very helpful. Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844 in a quiet village in the eastern part of Germany, where his father was the priest. He did exceptionally well at school and university, and so excelled at ancient Greek that he was made a professor at the University of Basel when still only in his mid-20s. But his official career didn't work out. He got fed up with his fellow academics, gave up his job, and moved to Sils Maria in the Swiss Alps, where he lived quietly, working on his masterpieces, among them The Birth of Tragedy, Human All Too Human, The Gay Science, Thus Spoke Zarathustra.
And you know, I'm just going to throw in here that I think probably two of the most negative philosophers that have ever risen to the top and become recognizable were Kant and Nietzsche. And the difference is that Nietzsche will talk about depression without knowing he's talking about depression and make it sound good. Like, yes, I realize being sad once in a while can help you. But this guy basically went into a major depressive episode and spent the final third of his life like that. I mean, what a depressing motherfucker. But sometimes smart people are just that way.
Beyond Good and Evil on the genealogy of morals. He had lots of problems. He didn't get on with his family. I don't like my mother, and it's painful even for me to hear my sister's voice. Women kept rejecting him. His books didn't sell. And when he was only 44, he had a mental breakdown, precipitated when he saw a horse in a Turin street being beaten by its driver, and ran over to embrace him, shouting, "I understand you." He never recovered and died 11 sad years later. But his philosophy was full of heroism and grandeur. He was a prophet of what he called Selbstüberwindung, or self-overcoming, the process by which a great-souled person, what he called an Übermensch, rises above their circumstances and difficulties
German for
to
Superman.
embrace whatever life throws at them. He wanted his work to teach us, as he put it, how to become who we really are. His thought centers around 4 main recommendations. 1. Own up to envy. Envy is, Nietzsche recognized, a big part of life. Yet the lingering effects of Christianity generally teach us to feel ashamed of our envious feelings. They seem an indication of evil, so we hide them from ourselves and others. Yet there's nothing wrong with envy, maintained Nietzsche, so long as we use it as a guide to what we really want. Every person who makes us envious should be seen as an indication of what we could one day become. The envy-inducing writer, tycoon, or chef is hinting at who you are capable of one day being. It's not that Nietzsche believed we always end up getting what we want. His own life had taught him this well enough. He simply insisted that we must face up to our true desires, put up a heroic fight to honour them, and only then mourn failure with solemn dignity. That is what it means to be an Übermensch.
Übermensch.
Don't be a Christian. Nietzsche had some extreme things to say about Christianity. In the entire New Testament, he wrote, there is only one person worth respecting, Pilate, the Roman governor. It was knockabout stuff, but his true target was more subtle and more interesting. He resented Christianity for protecting people from their envy. Christianity had, in Nietzsche's account, emerged in the late Roman Empire, in the minds of timid slaves who'd lacked the stomach to get hold of what they really wanted, and so had clung to a philosophy that made a virtue of their cowardice. He called this Sklavenmoral. Christians, whom he rather rudely termed die Herde, the herd, had wished to enjoy the real ingredients of fulfillment, a position in the world, sex, intellectual mastery, creativity, but they'd been too inept to get them. They'd therefore fashioned a hypocritical creed, denouncing what they wanted but were too weak to fight for, while praising what they didn't want but happened to have.
Damn. Now, you won't hear a more thorough and terse body slamming of Christianity than you just heard right there. And that calls for
drink!
Yeah, there it is. And we'll keep going.
So, in the Christian value system, sexlessness turned into purity, weakness became goodness, submission to people one hates became obedience, and, in Nietzsche's phrase, not being able to take revenge turned into forgiveness. Christianity amounted to a giant machine for bitter denial. 3. Never drink.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut that off in the middle. He's about to say never drink alcohol, but I just wanted to say that I disagree with him a little bit on Christianity. I don't want to specify Christianity. I want to specify most major religions. I believe we're created by man probably early on for comfort. That's probably where the fireside story started. But then they quickly became a way to control man. Because think about this. Work with me here. We're going to go. I'm completely off the top of my head. You're a caveman. You're around 8,000 BC. Okay, and there's already stories around. You're learning a little bit of language here and there. You got the talk thing going. You got some drawings going, and you find out that these stories of living on after you're dead are very comforting. It feels good. There's no end. Oh, that's great, man. I don't have to end when my body stops working. That's great. Not how they would have worded it in their own thinking, but you know. Then you find this out. If I say only some people can go and live on after they're dead, I've got a false form of currency here. I think I'll become a medicine man, maybe a priest. Yeah, I can get you to God. I can get you to God. You can't get on your own. No. You need someone who's holier than thouest. And guess what else? If I can get you closer to God, you're going to owe me something. Maybe I'll ask you for some coconuts. Maybe I'll ask you for some sex. Yeah. Or you might have somebody saying, we're creating a law system here, but we can't watch everybody all the time. Let's think about this. Now, we've already created our story about somebody living on after death. We've already got it monetized. We're using it as a currency now. What can we do to make men behave all the time, even when we're not around? Aha. We're going to tell them that there's an invisible dude somewhere writing down everything they do, everything, in the presence of others or not. And they will be judged by each of those things. Now we have to define what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. I'm not saying this is how religion started, folks, but it makes so much fucking sense. It's spooky to me how easily this could have started if there really was no God. Men created him. And I've said it before, if God didn't create man, then man created God. That's for sure. Let's keep it going, though.
Nietzsche himself drank only water, and as a special treat, milk. And he thought we should do likewise. He wasn't making a small, eccentric dietary point. The idea went to the heart of his philosophy, as contained in his declaration, there have been two great narcotics in European civilization, Christianity and alcohol. He hated alcohol for the very same reasons that he scorned Christianity, because both numb pain, both reassure us that things are just fine as they are, sapping us of the will to change our lives for the better. A few drinks usher in a transient feeling of satisfaction that can get fatally in the way of taking the steps necessary to improve our lives.
So he's basically saying, if you didn't get it already, that you need the pain to make the change. If you're not feeling the pain, if you're medicating with Christianity or alcohol, which is the big things back then you're just going to stay the way you are. You've found a way to silence those voices that are telling you things aren't right. So he's seeing Christianity not only as a plague of the spirit, but also as a crutch that if you use, your bone will never heal because you'll never try to use the muscles again. I mean, he's hitting it from every angle you can hit it from. Very brave for his time and his part of the world.
Nietzsche was obsessed with the awkward truth that getting really valuable things done hurts. How little you know of human happiness, you comfortable people, he wrote. The secret of a fulfilled life is live dangerously, build your cities on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. 4. God is dead. Nietzsche's dramatic assertion that God is dead is not, as it's often taken to be, some kind of a celebratory statement. Despite his reservations about Christianity, Nietzsche didn't think that the end of belief was anything to cheer about. Religious beliefs were false, he knew, but he observed that they were very, very beneficial in the sense of helping us cope with the problems of life. Nietzsche felt that the gap left by religion should ideally be filled by culture. He meant philosophy, art, music, literature.
And that bothers me because look what he just did. And this is true. This is all accurate about Nietzsche. He was, who was it? I believe it was, it wasn't Longfellow. Maybe, I'll think of it in a minute. He said, do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes. And I believe that. It's okay to contradict yourself. You got a lot of information in your head. If you're an intelligent thinker, you're going to go back across your own thoughts sometime, across the grain. That's all right. That doesn't mean that everything you say has to be dismissed. It just means that there's a little synapse there that we have to discover, and it really is just a bit of cognitive dissonance or a lack of discovery in one specific area that